Hey, this is Brian Elaine from CrowdScribed, and this is 6.5 Questions with Scott Klososky. Is that Scott William Klososky?
Scott Arthur Klososky.
Arthur. Okay, I was way off. Scott is the author of a few books, including the Velocity Manifesto and Enterprise Social Technology. He's also an entrepreneur and the founder of CrowdScribed. Scott, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Brian, glad to do it.
Absolutely. Let's jump right in. Question number one, before we talk about your books, let's talk about writing. What are your ideal writing conditions?
Wow, I write best in the morning. So
Okay.
it's usually in the first 3 hours when I wake up. It's usually when I am completely alone. And when I say completely alone, I can write fantastic on an airplane, on a transatlantic flight, right? With the noise canceling headphones, because I'm alone, even though there's people around.
Sure.
So it's usually for me, it's just being alone. I really don't care where I am, in the world. It's just if I'm alone and it's morning time, I can just crank out the intelligence.
Question number two, what are your thoughts on writer's block? How have you handled it if you've had it, and do you even think that it exists?
Oh, I absolutely think it exists. Wow, that's a good question. When you first asked that, I thought, there's a feeling that I get, and I don't know if it's like this for everybody, but there's a feeling that I get that is very much like I am completely blocked. Like I can put my hands on the keyboard, but my brain cannot engage. It just I wanna write, but I can't get myself to think about what I've written before and how to tie in the next thing. I can't think about the patterns of what needs to come next. And so, I don't know, for me, writing flows, and it's probably like that for a lot of people. And so, writer's block for me feels like the flow is blocked. And, I guess the next question is, well, gee, can you get out of that? Can you remove the block? And sometimes I can, and sometimes I can't, because when I think about why I get blocked, it's usually I'm distracted. I'm just distracted,
Sure.
frankly. When I'm not distracted, then things seem to flow pretty well. But if there's too much going on in my brain, if I have monkey mind, that's where I think the block happens. And I think it's probably why I write best in the morning, because I'll wake up in the morning and I have kind of a fresh mind, and then as the day goes on, I get calls or I get email or people talk to me, and then my mind gets polluted, and then that's when the block happens.
All right, question number three. You actually crowdsourced some of the writing for one of your books, as well as the cover, I think. What did you learn from that project?
Wow, we learned so much, and it was an interesting project because we people had crowdsourced the cover of books before.
Hmm.
People had crowdsourced recipe books before, like the church, would crowdsource a recipe book.
Yeah.
But my goal was to do something a lot deeper than just crowdsourcing a cover. What I wanted to do was collaborate with the crowd to help me write the chapters, and then collaborate with the crowd to help sell the book, right? Which is called crowdvertising, right?
Yeah.
A variation of advertising.
Yeah.
And so let's take those two different things, right? The content and separate from the crowdvertising. So what I learned on the content was there's a lot of people out there who are good writers. It's amazing how you can give somebody a chapter outline, a deep chapter outline, and you can have 5 different people write against that outline and how different the chapters can be.
Hmm.
And the other thing that just completely shocked us was how hard it is to pick which one is the best chapter. And I think if you ask me that, the one thing I was most surprised about, it was that, because at first we were just worried about whether people would even, play the game. I mean, we were offering a $1,000 bounty per chapter,
Yeah.
but we were worried about whether people would even play the game. And they did. And so then what surprised us so much is there were chapters where I would get 3 of them, and I would look at them and we would say, all 3 of these are good. And I guess we always thought one would always stand out. And it was really difficult in the end to pick, well, who should the winners be of the $1,000? Let's look at the other side. The crowdvertising was an experiment, right? We offered like 20 different bounties for people to help promote the book. In the end, I think we had, let's say, 6 of the bounties got taken up.
Okay.
So it wasn't like a clean sweep success, but what it did show is that you could offer a bounty and that people would promote your book, right? In
Okay.
response for that bounty. And so, and that experiment was what, 2 years ago, so I'm sure it would probably be even better today.
Yeah, yeah, it's a fascinating experiment. The book is called Enterprise Social Technology, and you can find that on Amazon. Let's move on. Question number 4. Your next book, which is a book currently being funded through CrowdScribed, is called Did God Invent the Internet? What's your 30-second elevator pitch on that?
Oh, I'm trying to solve one clear problem. I don't think the world thinks enough about what technology is going to do to the human race, and are we going to be happy about that, yes or no? And so, the title is a metaphor for, has God anointed technology as a positive or is it a negative, right? And it's just a
Yeah.
bit of a tongue-in-cheek title, but that's the whole book is just, me working with the reader to help the reader understand different ways to think about technology, what it's doing to us, what it's going to do to us, and then me making an editorial comment from time to time on, are we going to like this as a human race? Is it going to be positive or not?
All right, question number 5. I'm sure there are many reasons that you founded CrowdScribed, and one of them is probably the uncertainty in the publishing industry and kind of your vision for what might happen over the next 3 to 5 years. Can you talk a little bit about that uncertainty and where you see the industry headed?
The reason that I founded CrowdScribed is because as a technologist, I study patterns and trends. And then I try to apply those patterns and trends sometimes to different industries. Or let's say it becomes apparent to me that a trend that is in one place is going to impact an industry in another place. And so being an author and having been through the formal book process with McGraw-Hill, and then having done a crowdsourced book, and done a book with Greenleaf, I had a good perspective on the publishing industry. As a technologist, I was looking at crowd dynamics and looking at crowdfunding and crowd accelerated innovation, and I started saying, what happens if all the crowd dynamics got applied to publishing? And then one day I kind of woke up and said, why is it that authors will write an entire book and then try to take it out to the market and find a way to get it sold instead of authors working with the readers while they're developing the project? And it makes no sense, right? I mean, in today's technology world, an author should be able to work with the audience. Now, maybe some authors don't want to, and I understand that. That's fair enough. But a lot of authors, we would love to work with get input from, money from, if they want to pre-buy things, but work with the readers earlier in the process. And then, of course, then the whole issue of publishers came up of, well, if we did this, then that helps the publishers to be able to see the projects better and better marry authors with publishers. I love the idea, right, of creating a platform that would really, be a blessing and help everybody.
All right, question number 6. Let's talk about reading for a second. Of the last 10 books that you've read, how many do you think were print versus digital?
The last 10 books that I've read, honestly, they would all be digital.
Yeah.
I have picked up paper books, but I never read a full paper book anymore, right? So if somebody gives me a paper book, I will only read the first section of it till I understand the idea of it. I don't read any fiction on paper, and I don't think I would. So the only paper I read is normally when somebody gives me a nonfiction book, like from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
Or I pick one up, while I'm at a convention or something somewhere, but I don't ever read them anymore, the whole thing, because, I can read the first third and I got it, right? The whole last 2/3 is a waste of time with most business books.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
All the good ideas are in the first third. So so really mostly what I read are books on my iPad, and mostly fiction.
Final question. Question number 7. When we're recording this, we just celebrated Thanksgiving. We've got Christmas coming up soon. Curious if you have a most favorite or least favorite holiday.
I like Thanksgiving in that I really like the concept of being grateful.
Mm-hmm.
And so, from a holiday and what does the holiday mean standpoint, I spend a whole week around Thanksgiving just thinking about everything I'm grateful for. And so I love the holiday from that standpoint. Christmas, I like because my wife has a Santa collection. It has, 700 Santas or some crazy number.
Wow.
And she puts her Santas out all over the house. And so, in every single room within arm's reach, there is Santas, and I could sit here and hold them all in front of you, right? But I love the Santas, and I love the way she decorates the house. What I don't like about Christmas anymore is I'm just getting tired of all the commercialism, so that's why I don't know if I had to pick one holiday. I'd probably say I sure like, Thanksgiving, because I just love taking the time to be grateful.
Well, you can find Scott on Twitter at @Klososky, and you can read his blog at technologystory.com. Plenty of information on there about him. And to connect with readers and authors, find great books, including Scott's, and even publish your own, you can visit CrowdScribed.com. Thanks so much for your time, Scott.
Hey, thanks, Brian. Those were great questions.
Thanks.